Welcome to today's episode of the Organizer Podcast. I'm your host, Julie Palau. So happy that you're here, brand new to our show. Welcome. I know spring brings out a lot of newbies. I always see our numbers jump up at the beginning of the year and springtime and back to school, right? So that's when I think people get the organizing, decluttering bug and are looking for any type of encouragement and support that they can find. So if you have stumbled into our little ecosystem, I'm so grateful that you're here. So thank you so much, whatever brought you here. We've got a ton of resources to help you wherever you are in your journey. I'm actually taking a pivot today from what I had originally planned to record for this week's episode because I went into kind of like a real life scenario with one of my clients, and it got me thinking that this is actually a really important topic. And I know it's something that she's struggling with, and I sincerely believe that a lot of people are struggling with a similar topic. So I have a bunch of notes that I drafted up. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you're going to see them kind of looking down, because I don't want to miss it. There's a lot that I want to cover. And the episode title, if you didn't already read it, is Why Bouncing Around Keeps You Stuck and what to do about that. Because one of the biggest red flags that I see from people is that stop and start. And we call it, or I call it the ping pong decluttering, right? And so what that really means is you start organizing in one area, but then for whatever variety of reasons, you either get distracted or you get bored or you get overwhelmed, you start moving to another area. And it happens a lot. And with a lot of people, it's like super common. And the result of that is that you oftentimes have multiple spaces that are half finished. And that actually can make your home feel even more chaotic than when you started. And on top of that, on top of like that physical, like things being in disarray, is there's this mental load component that we struggle with that we don't often realize. So you're switching tasks, going from one spot to another without ever really having that like final completion to be able to check that box and move on to the next. And so what happens is we get tired and we get frustrated and we start to feel like we're not making any progress. And I know I've talked about it before, but I'm a huge kind of Dave Ramsey fan when it comes to approaching debt. And when I look at people who are struggling with debt and they are trying to get themselves out of it, and it can be very emotional and scary and overwhelming and all the things. And without a clear plan, it's really hard to get out of that and start making traction. And it's a lot easier to stay in this cycle, this perpetual cycle of debt, unless you have a clear plan. So like Dave Ramsey has the baby steps and you follow through them, and it's a very systematic approach, right? Whether you agree with it or not, is a very systematic approach that allows you to get to this level, then you move to the next one, and then you move to the next one. And I like to approach organizing the same way. And I think what happens for a lot of people is they inadvertently use the bouncing around, thinking that they're making progress when essentially they're just staying in this cycle because they're never really fully changing the behavior, and they're also not like getting one clutter area fully out of their life. So it's always hanging around. And when at first glance, it appears that it gives you this like false sense of productivity because you're being busy. But when you start to peel back the layers and you really look at it, it really makes it more difficult to see the progress. And when you don't see progress, that's what leads to frustration. And that's when we start to throw our hands up. And I think about it all the time when it comes to weight loss and exercise and eating. When you're working really hard to try to reach a goal. Maybe you're trying to lower your cholesterol. Maybe you're trying to lose weight on the scale. Maybe you're trying to just get down a pant size, whatever that is. Maybe you're running and you're trying to get a 5K in under 30 minutes or 25 minutes or whatever goal you're setting for yourself. Without a plan of how you're going to get there, approach that, we oftentimes are just going through the motion. And when we look up and we said that we've spent X amount of time trying to get to this goal and we haven't gotten it, but we've been busy, and I'm air quoting this, like we've been busy trying, but not being effective with it. It makes you just want to be like, forget it. I'm going to go eat the hot fudge sundae, or I'm going to go, I don't know, whatever the fill in the blank is to fill that void and just ignore that sense of frustration that we're having. So how do we fix this, right? How do we know that this is a problem and so many people are experiencing it? So what do we do? The first thing is, and again, it's nothing that I haven't said a million times before, but we're going to say it again, is pick one zone. It doesn't have to be a whole room. It doesn't have to be a whole area. Pick one zone, one area, and stick to that. So it could be a counter. It could be a drawer. It could be a closet. Whatever that manageable space is, I want you to identify that you're going to use that one space and you are going to see that through to completion. Now, if you're someone that gets easily distracted, set a timer. Give yourself that timeline to work on it within that time frame. This is where my 4-pile system comes in really handy. So this is the sorting system that I use is the 4-pile method. It's keep, donate, recycle, relocate. I'll say that again. Keep, and that means we're keeping it in that same spot that we are currently in. So if we're working in the home office and it's office supplies, it's going to live there. That's keep. Then we have donate. Donate is, we have a bunch of extra pens and we don't use them. I'm donating them. Old notebooks, we're donating them. So that's donate. Then we have recycle. This is all the old paperwork that we're having with these pens that no longer work. Those are all the recycle items. And then what goes in relocate? Relocate is, I had a lipstick in my office, but I don't do my makeup in the office. So I'm going to relocate that to my purse or back into my makeup area of my bathroom. So that is the relocate, but don't take the relocate stuff until the end. And that is where a lot of people go sideways, is they start to quickly go to that relocate and then they start digging into that new space. So just make those piles and have that systematic way that you are working through your space so that you start to see progress. There's also the emotional side to declutter. And I think a lot of people will also move around because it's a tactic of avoiding. And if you're somebody who's an avoider, think about other areas of your life. We look at relationships, attachment styles, personality types. There are people, fight or flight, right? There are people who are avoiders, people who are procrastinators, people who will distract themselves from the hard, uncomfortable things. And if you are somebody that does that in other areas of your life, it would make sense that you are going to follow a similar pattern when it comes to declutter, because so much of our clutter is emotional. So much of it is a result of other things that are going on in our lives, because clutter is the result of byproduct of something else that's going on. So if you have clutter that is building up, it's usually because something else in your life went sideways. And so if that is you, having that hard look in the mirror to make those tough decisions is uncomfortable. And working through that by first even admitting it and addressing it is step one. Just admitting this is really hard for me. This is emotional. This is making me feel, and I'm making this up, but this is making me feel like I'm shameful, or I feel like a failure, or this is reminding me of a really uncomfortable period of my life. Maybe you were going through a divorce or a health issue or a death or something was going on in your life. And as a result, all this clutter started accumulating. And now you're coming up from air, the fog is lifting, and you're ready to address it because you've had enough of the physical clutter. But just the thought of that, dealing with that physical clutter, is bringing you back to that really uncomfortable period of your life. And so for many of us, that gut instinct is to run away. And that's when we have to sit in the heart. And that's tough. And that's when it's helpful to bring in reinforcements, whether that's a friend or a professional to help you navigate through that. Because the reality of it is decluttering is not a quick fix. It is not an overnight fix. I say this all the time. Your clutter did not accumulate overnight. It is not going to go away in the blink of an eye. Even if you were to bring in a professional organizer with a team of people, the majority of things you're going to have to sift through them. We're not just here talking about like a whole home clean out, right? That's a different type of a job, right? That's a different thing. But if you are saying, listen, my life has gone like off the rails the past couple of years, I need to get back on track. I need to start creating some systems. We need to work through that systematically. And that takes time. We want to not be hasty. We don't want to rush things. And at this point, the goal isn't about the perfection. It's about being consistent and seeing that consistent progress, that progression happen. And it's normal to feel frustrated, and it's normal to want to get it all done. That's human nature. Especially whenever we want something, we're like, we want it now. We're at that point where you're like, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm at my breaking point. And being able to recognize that and sit in the uncomfortable is a huge part of the whole cycle. And so it really becomes this mindset shift of changing it from how fast can I get this done to how can I start building healthy habits? What can I change to make sure that we don't repeat this from happening? How do we undo some of the things that maybe have been done to get us? And we can only learn from it. And once we're aware of it, it's hard to unsee it. And so we just need to work through it until we get to the point where you feel good about it. And then we're building new habits, because that's really what we're talking about. We're not just talking about removing the clutter. We're talking about removing the bad habits that lent us to the clutter. And again, understandably, sometimes there are things that take up bigger priority than filing your stuff or getting rid of things. I totally get it. So whatever your reason is for getting there, just recognize that it's a process to be able to get through it. And sometimes we want to just hit the pause button and just not deal with it. And I think it's okay if we have to reevaluate and shift focus, but setting some very specific guidelines, goals, and benchmarks is going to allow you to work through those hard times, right? When you're like, I can't see the forest through the trees. I just want to quit. Saying, no, let's shift the focus. Let's set some ground rules. What are some bare minimums? What are some things that you can do on your own? What are some things that you can do that you can outsource? And really saying, how can I incorporate this into my life in a healthy way? And sometimes that means doing a fresh reset. Maybe you're going to do a 30-day reset and say, okay, I'm doing this for 30 days, and then I'm going to reevaluate and see where you are. Maybe it means you're saying, okay, when I get to this point, I'm going to consider this done for now. I'm a big fan of breaking things into phases. So it's okay. Phase one might be, we're going to declutter, and then we're going to stop and we're going to move into something else. Maybe you're going to come back and create the organizing system after, but really having a sense of where's our temporary finish line, as opposed to saying, okay, I've had enough. I can't deal with it anymore. And I'm going to ping pong somewhere else, because that is where people get stuck. That is where people get frustrated. And I understand that these are normal feelings. I see it all the time. I see it with my client right now, and working through that and just reestablishing what our bar is, why we're here in the first place, and what our goals are is just as much my job as much as it is sitting there and sorting through the stuff, right? Being that cheerleader, being that champion for your friend, for your spouse, for your client, if you're a professional organizer and you're listening to this. When we start to feel demotivated in our own lives about something, having somebody that's going to encourage you. Think about that's why people are running a race and there's people on the sideline, you got it, you one more mile or you're almost there. It's those little words of encouragement that have so much weight. And that's what allows you to dig deep when the going gets tough and be that for somebody, right? And if you are somebody that needs somebody to dig deep for you, get that person. It's okay to say, hey, I'm at a bottleneck. I'm at a roadblock. I need some help. And I need, whether it's accountability, whether it's tough love, whether it's nurturing, whatever it is, get that other person that can be that support for you, because it's hard. It's hard mentally. It's hard physically, depending on where you're decluttering. I know sometimes you're decluttering a space. It's in like a basement or a garage. You're lifting stuff, you're carrying stuff, you're moving stuff, and it's exhausting. And so give yourself some grace and space on that. But also don't be afraid to say, hey, I need some help getting to that finish line. Can you help me? And so again, I know that this episode might be a little all over the place. Like I said, it was very impromptu, but I felt the need to share this with you because I know the frustration that I feel for my client. And I know that there's probably someone out there listening. Maybe it's you, maybe it's a friend of yours that really needs to hear this. And so if that is somebody in your world, please share this episode with them. It helps us to all feel like we're not alone in this. Clutter is so many people's dirty little secret, and it really doesn't have to be. We all go through tough things. We all use different coping strategies, and sometimes it's shutting down, and sometimes it's shopping, and sometimes it's avoiding. And for some of us, it's decluttering and organizing. But if you are in a spot where you're finding yourself overwhelmed and you don't know where to start, please, I encourage you to enlist the help of somebody else who can help you map out a clear and consistent plan so that you don't wind up ping-ponging back and forth, because you and your time are worth more than that. So anyway, I hope you found this episode helpful and useful. And I am here championing you every step of the way. So I'm Lori Palau, and until next week, peace out.